It's that time again. The World Cup has ended, and a new series of tournaments has now taken its place. The next large event, the Fortnite Champions Series, is announced to run until September 22nd with weekly tournaments. And with separate weekly cash cups for both solos and trios, hey, there's gonna be a lot of opportunities to play in some high-level events. Hey everybody, this is your guy, your friend, Keith Allen, and make sure to connect with me on my Instagram. Been enjoying the conversations we've been having. So, in this video, it's all about how to prepare for tournament day. Yeah. Everything from in-game warm-up to preparing your mind, hey, it's all gonna be covered. All right, so before we get things started, we like to make a small announcement. We are adding a ton of new features to Pro Guides, which include 1. Exclusive guide videos for our Pro members every single day. 2. Pro Pass now grants access to all games such as League of Legends, Smash Brothers, CSGO, and Overwatch. More free coaching passes and points for InstaPro if you're a Pro member. So head on over to Pro Guides by clicking the link in the description below. All right, so before you practice in-game, you need to make sure your body and your mind are working at peak performance. So take whatever time you need, guys, to just make sure you're alert and awake. Making sure you get a good night's rest and have a healthy breakfast and lunch. This is not the time to fast, all right? I'm not saying eat yourself into a food coma or anything like that, all right? But if you're like most people, playing on an empty stomach is a bad idea because you're gonna be thinking about food when you should be thinking about the game. And now you're thinking about Chick-fil-A when you need to just be thinking about how to win this game. As for in-game practice, well, no warm-up routine is going to be complete without loading into some creative levels to just work on your mechanics. This is one of the most impactful parts of preparing for a tournament. Almost nobody performs at their best as soon as they get on. And for the most part, it can even take up to several hours before they do. That's because things like muscle memory and hand-eye coordination deteriorate and can just take time to build up again. Okay, so think about this. Your aim, edits, and builds are usually pretty sloppy during your first few games, right? Well, for some of us, it's kind of always sloppy, but that's another story. But once you play for a few hours, things just start to feel a little bit more natural. You just start to react with instincts, which speeds up your decision-making and drastically improve performance. Even just a small amount of time practicing will improve your gameplay. For many of us, it will take months for that, but anyways. But for tournaments, you want to spend at least 15 minutes in each area. We know that not everybody has the time, but when you need to do your best, only a few minutes won't cut it. For Fortnite, you need to practice all 3 mechanically demanding areas: aim, builds, and edits. Now, the order you choose to warm up, it really doesn't matter, but what you should do is pick what you feel you're worst at and then allocate more time toward that. That way, hey, if one part of your skill set is lacking, you could be a bit better at it when the time comes. Also, if you need some creative courses to warm up, our recent video on that topic has got you covered. Check it out here. So in terms of specifics, let's talk about aim training first. Practicing with all weapon types is fine, but you should be spending most of the time with shotguns and rifles. Those weapons make up a majority of the limbs and are the most important to practice with. Besides the weapon types, you need to practice different aiming techniques. There are flicks where you could just move your crosshair towards an enemy and shoot almost instantly in a reactionary manner. Flicks are mostly used with shotguns, so we practice them with that weapon type over the others. Even if you play on a controller or find them hard to do, they're still worth practicing. It'll increase your speed and accuracy and allow you to land more shots. All right, so then there's tracking. So instead of just relying on muscle memory and fast movements, tracking is more deliberate and has you following your opponents with your crosshair. It's most useful with the rifle against players running in the distance or gliding in the air. When you practice your tracking, try to focus on the movement of your target. Okay, so for example, if somebody is gliding in the sky, proper tracking would be putting your crosshair on them and just adjusting your aim relative to their movement. It allows you not to have to consciously try to aim, but instead, now you're relying on your knowledge of how players move in this game to keep your aim on point. The slower and more predictable the movement is, the easier it's going to be for you to track them. You can spend time practicing other areas like leading projectile aim with snipers or arching grenades properly, but those see much less usage in-game and shouldn't really take too much of your warm-up time. Outside of the game itself, if you're playing on a PC, you have things like Kovac's Aim Trainer and other third-party apps that you can use to practice with, which is really cool. I've talked about on my Instagram. It's not really necessary, but it can still provide for a more intense warm-up session that can be found in most creative maps. Still, we do recommend spending most, if not all, your aim training time in creative. Things like sensitivity and other settings can differ, so any training you do outside of the game might not transfer over. So, no Fortnite warm-up would be complete without getting some practice in on your builds and edits. So deciding how to practice this part, it can depend on your playstyle, so here are a few tips. If you think you're going to be playing aggressive and getting into a lot of build fights, spend more time practicing build battles, guys, and techniques involved. Things like high ground retakes, cranking 90, scissor jumps, and any other build combos you might want to use in a fight. Having a friend to 1v1 with in creative is a great way to do this, so you should definitely try to coordinate sessions with them on tournament days. So if you're more of the passive type and you won't be build fighting that often, all right, you might be better off practicing a defensive technique like tunneling. With how necessary tunneling is during in-game scenarios especially, you do not want to be messing up your edits or where you can place structures. Editing is a big part of tunneling, so running through an editing course once, twice, or even several times, that'll even reduce the number of mistakes you're going to make once you're in-game. Some players out there even say that warming up your building is more important than warming up your aim, and you know what? They're not wrong for saying that. With all the different buttons you have to rapidly press to pull off even some of the more simple techniques, you need to familiarize your mind with the build system almost to the point of pure instinct. That way, hey, once you get in-game, you can avoid disastrous moments resulting from slow and clumsy building. Okay, who's been there? I know I have. As an example of how a pro player warms up, let's look at Mongrel. Mongrel isn't the type of player to just shy away from fights in high-level events. We all know that. In his ultimate warm-up guide, he talks about how he practices different building techniques. He loads into a normal creative map and goes over them one by one. This ranges from a variety of building combos to different high ground retake methods. That's because these advanced techniques are mostly what Mongrel is going to be using to get an edge over his opponents during the tournament. He also spends time practicing simple but effective techniques like double floor wall ramping and straight tunneling. Even when you think you've perfected something, hey, it's not a bad idea just to go back and practice it so you can just get better and better. That way, your muscle memory for that specific move doesn't deteriorate as fast. So after you warmed up in creative, it's important that you get yourself a couple of practice games before the tournament starts. You know, some very specific parts of Battle Royale can't be practiced easily in creative, so things like rotations, storm awareness, landings, loop paths, and material management, super important. If it's your first of the game, you might not remember to pay attention to where the storm is or how much material you have. It's better to get those mistakes out of the way in practice games. Then your mind will be more familiarized to those aspects once the actual tournament starts. A single arena match can take up to 25 minutes to complete, so you need a fair amount of time to just get some games in. It's best if you just run several of them, but if you're running low on remaining time, try to just get at least one game in. Getting those practice games in plays an important part of what we're going to be talking about next. So one of the things that I've been starting to talk about on my Insta is mindset. You know, having the wrong mindset, guys, during a tournament, oh my goodness, it could just ruin results. Some players, especially those with less experience, feel extremely nervous and anxious on a tournament day, which I get it. You know, they get boggled down by the idea that the results have meaning, which can cause them to just play irrationally. Then after a bad game or two, they get tilted and start to perform even worse. This is pretty common, but here are a few ways to combat it. You ready? The practice matches that we just said that you should do are one way to reduce stress. Play those matches as if you were playing in the tournament. That way, hey, once you get into game one, hey, you're already comfortable, you're feeling good because, hey, you've been doing your game plan for the last couple of hours. If you don't play any practice games, you might start questioning a lot of your decisions, which can lead to nervousness and panicky plays, which we've all been there. If you've had a bad game during the tournament, do not get hung up on it. The most important thing you can do is just forget about it and move on. Focus purely on the next game, guys, all right? You live to see another day, all right? Even if it's because you made a bad mistake, you need to just get over it as soon as you can. The results of your last game are going to have no impact on the next one, so there's nothing that can be done now. With just nothing that you can do, there's no point in getting upset about it. So save it for a VOD review, a time where you can just be critical about yourself without impacting your gameplay. As pro players say, GG's only. Some players have rituals they like to do before the tournament even begins. For example, some might go for a jog or take a shower. I wouldn't do that in the middle of a game, but okay. Or go for a coffee break before the tournament even begins. These rituals can be a great way to take a break and just refresh your mind. If you guys didn't know, breaks are super important when it comes to performing well. You know, our brains aren't perfect and they need resting time to take time to, get information. For tasks that use a lot of brain power, especially like Fortnite, oh my goodness, it's recommended that you take at least a 5 to 10 minute break every hour. If you don't, you're gonna find yourself performing worse after even the warm-up. So guys, in conclusion, if you have several hours to warm up, here's what you should be doing. Spend half an hour to an hour in creative warm-ups, okay? Then hop into some actual games. Don't be afraid to take small breaks every hour or when needed, as a quick refresher can prevent your mind from just being overburdened. Feel free to swap between training sessions and playing matches. Like at one point, if you feel like your aim is just still off after some warm-up games, hey, head on back into creative for another session. If time is an issue on a tournament day, practice for however long you can be in creative. The warm-up you're going to get there is likely going to be more value than what a practice match can give. Also, please prioritize warming up, the style that fits your playstyle. That way, you're not going to waste your time on stuff that has little use to you for the tournament. So guys, hopefully the advice and tips we gave you can help you prepare for any upcoming tourneys. There doesn't seem to be a stop to these events coming anytime soon. They just keep coming and coming. So, for the foreseeable future, my friends, Epic will be hosting multiple weekly events anybody can participate in. With how the prize pools are being distributed, only a handful of the best players are going to win the cash prizes. Chances are, you're not going to be one of them, but don't think you've wasted your time though. With how often these events are being run, set your goals to improve the results every single week. I believe in you guys. We believe in you guys. You can do it. Strive to get better at the game. One day, hey, you might even end up on top. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, this is your guy, your friend,